to episode 77 of Squib Radio. I am your host, as always, Elias Powell, and I'm joined here by both Terry Burke and Riley Pollock. How are we doing on this lovely Wednesday, boys?
Doing all right. I was excited for a full day of football. Now we're only going to get 2/3 of a day of football, but I'll still take it on a Thursday.
Yeah, it's just too bad those games happen during the day and you got to work, so you're just going to have to hear about those highlights. Other than that, doing great,
Excellent. And for those of you that are in the U.S. of A, very happy Thanksgiving to all of you, and we hope you all enjoy a wonderful day of football. We got a lot to get to today. A Week 11 recap, as we are recording a little earlier in the week than we normally do. And, of course, we'll go through the news and our injury report, followed by some picks and some various league updates. But we are going to start with the Week 11 recap. And let's just jump right into Seattle versus Arizona, the Thursday night game.
Yeah, that was a heck of a football game. I think we had some pretty good games altogether this week, but that was a good one because I think it was just a shootout. You saw the young gun in Kyler against Russell Wilson, and it went Seattle's way, but I thought Arizona was right in it all the way to the end.
Yeah, I thought Kyler looked great in the game. These two have been in contention for MVP. Or in talks, anyway, by some people. And I don't know. I kind of still, even after this game, the Cardinals lost, but I'd still take Kyler over Russ MVP thus far this season.
I don't know if I would go quite that far. I think both have sort of fallen out of MVP contention altogether, and we did talk about that last week. But overall, it's so good to see the battle between Seattle and Arizona getting back to the level that it was we saw around 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, it's good that both teams are good. I'm gonna have to disagree with Harry on the Kyler over Russ thing. Russ has 30 touchdown passes already this year and only 2 more picks than Kyler. But yeah, like you said, I don't think either of them are in the top 3 anymore. But both good quarterbacks. Definitely not denying that. But yeah, as far as this year goes, I would still take Russ.
That list,
and I think we're gonna.
That list, sorry, Rawls, but that list fluctuates all season so much that you kind of just gotta pick out throughout the season who's kind of trending with the most up weeks, you could say. And come on, Kyler has been there a lot of weeks.
I mean, he's under 100 in QBR, and the other 5 out of the other 7 are all over 100. Some in the 110s in QB rating too. I'm just saying he's right up there in talks. It's gonna be tough to take it away from Mahomes, but yeah, I'm not gonna deny that. So yeah, I wouldn't have him in my talks.
Well, that is very fair. Moving on to a little overtime game, Tennessee versus Baltimore.
That was a fun one too. I mean, yeah, we had some good football games just looking through this list that we have compiled here, but Baltimore falters once again. Gotta love to see it. Tennessee sticking right in it in the playoff spot. Baltimore's got to pick it up here. They're on the outside looking in terms of playoffs right now at 6-4, and it's they got to figure it out. But that offense just seems stagnant sometimes. And once again, Tennessee's offense slightly outplayed Baltimore's offense.
Yeah, I think Baltimore just got run down at the end of the game. And again, I don't know if when it comes down to one possession, Lamar just isn't the guy.
No, you got to play, the Ravens are good when they have the lead. Coming back is not something that they're good at doing.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not quite built for charging back in games.
Yeah, not sold on the Ravens at all, especially with their defense being as beat up as it is. I don't know, it's tough to see the Ravens as a real contender.
They are currently on the outside looking in of playoffs as well.
Yeah. Yep, and that AFC isn't going to get any easier either. So
no, definitely not.
Yeah, well, and they have to play the Steelers this week.
Yeah.
Well, Lamar did come out and say that other teams were calling out their plays at the line of scrimmage. So is it his fault or, is it Harborough?
I mean, when he can't hit a guy, his pass to Andrews was nice last week, but he's so inconsistent throwing the ball that definitely a decent amount of blame falls on his shoulders, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't disagree with you. I just saw that in the media and it's just interesting. So we'll see what happens at the end of the season and who the GM decides to go with, because I think if they don't perform this year like they were expected to, something is gonna change.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, they expected to be a top of their division, competing for the Super Bowl team, and right now they're not in a playoff spot.
Well, they have a lot of young guys on their defense on tiny contracts, so their window of having a dominant defense and their scary offense that was there last year their window's closing.
Yeah, I think Harbaugh actually recently signed a contract extension. I believe that could have even been last year. As far as the defense is concerned, I'm not really concerned about Baltimore's defense. They always have a good defense. They find it's kind of almost like a New England offense type of deal that we've seen for so long. They can bring guys in, and they seem to find guys both through the draft and free agency that can perform on defense, and they are coached well defensively. So I feel like even in the coming years, I'm not too concerned. They just need more weapons, and they got to get that backfield figured out. It was good to see Dobbins. Unfortunately, he now has COVID, but it was good to see one back take over that backfield, and in my opinion, that made a substantial improvement in their offense once that happened.
Yeah.
No,
and it is Greg Roman calling the plays there. I don't see Harbaugh getting canned, no matter what. Personally, I think he's done enough for the team that they give him the benefit of the doubt for one more year. But it would be interesting to see how Greg Roman does, because he did come in, build this offense around Lamar, but he is kind of known for taking a step back in second years of his contracts as the OC. So, I mean, he's got to figure something out. Maybe they go a different direction if they don't get what they want this year.
So maybe the answer is they just don't have the right weapons.
They don't have any receivers?
Because I don't disagree with you, Eli. You made a great point with how good they've been year after year drafting their defense, but maybe they have to start focusing a little bit more on their offense. Like Riley was saying, they have nobody.
Lamar has no weapons. Hollywood's maybe the sixth best receiver to that draft class, and he went first out of all of them. I don't know. He doesn't seem like the answer, and it seems like the Ravens have blown it on drafting receivers in the past as well.
Yeah, they haven't drafted very well offensively, but when you do have a quarterback that suffers from a bit of inaccuracy, it's always good to find a big receiver that can go up and get that ball. They need a body type like a DK Metcalf, a Julio Jones.
How much more dangerous would Hollywood be with that big body on the field, that big presence that the defense also has to keep an eye on?
Yeah, it's just this. It's such a unique skill set, though, to find anywhere to have that size and speed and maneuverability. They're both of those guys that I just mentioned are freaks, and you can't just go out and find one in a draft. But you got to focus in more. And I think
what do you mean you can't just go out in the draft and find one? That's where both of those guys came from.
Yeah, but they don't just grow on. They don't grow on trees.
DK got picked in the third round. No, you're right. These guys don't come in the draft every year, but you're finding these guys. You got to be a smart GM. The Seahawks in the third round. Think about how many teams passed over. Everybody passed over him twice before they even got to him. Who knows what other teams had multiple picks in between there?
What I was saying is you don't just find a Julio Jones or a DK Metcalf. Those are not players in the draft every year, and they need to identify it. And when they are available, they need to go after that type of receiver. but it is not something that you have
consistently. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
It's not like your 5'11" receiver that runs 4-3-4-4. Those are pretty common.
So if you guys had to pick one thing that's the Ravens' biggest issue, what is it?
Oh, it's
mine is play calling. I think that they've been figured out, and Greg Roman hasn't done anything to adjust the offense, make it seem new again.
Yeah. I want to agree with you, but I also want to say injuries, because they're pretty decimated with injuries / sicknesses with COVID. They've been hit pretty hard all year.
But
I agree with you, Ralph.
Is in not very good shape. They lost Ronnie Stanley. Yanda retired last year, arguably one of the best linemen in the NFL as a whole. So I think their O-line needs some work too. But yeah, it's tough to pinpoint it. There's a couple leaks in that bucket for sure that are, I think, equally important, from play calling to people who are catching the ball to people protecting. And then it all, like, so you could even narrow it down to that offensive line. You can't run the ball when your offensive line's banged up. Lamar's not going to get enough time to throw the ball accurately, which he desperately needs. And you're not going to get the protection to run the schemes that you want. You're not going to be able to have guys pull across the line. So I would say their offensive line.
Fair point. Boys,
yeah.
This was a really good game this week. I think we could talk about different aspects of these two teams all night, but we can't shy away from this Denver versus Miami game.
Well, yeah I mean, Miami's young. They're a young team. They're going to have bad games, for sure. They're ahead of their rebuild. They're ahead of schedule already just from playing as well as they have this year. They're going to have games like this, but, like, come on, boys. Gotta be Denver. Tua got benched. He was awful. The O-line was awful. He was getting pressured, like, almost instantly. It was just a really bad game for the Dolphins, in my opinion.
Yeah, I honestly just I was happy to see Tua get put in initially, or named as a starter initially, but I think it's just classic Dolphins, just trying too hard too early. They should have let Fitzmagic just keep going and just roll with him all season, and then maybe Tua comes in a little bit at the end of the season. But yeah, no, I was on the other side of this train a lot this season, but clearly we're seeing the result, and I hope Tua's confidence isn't shaken, really.
Yeah, like, realistically, he's had one good game out of his 3 starts.
Yeah.
They've won 2 of them, but it's because his defense and special teams was unreal in this first start.
Yeah, and I do think Tua's a stud QB, but he needs some time to learn, get in there. He's still coming off that injury in college. Come on.
Yeah.
I'd hate to see him just wasted by the Dolphins.
Agreed.
Yeah. I actually didn't watch that game really at all, so I don't really have a ton to add to it. It's just the lack of consistency. But if he was getting killed every snap, I mean, also protect your quarterback. Like, if you're getting killed and you're not going to win that game and you're playing bad, I mean, that's a perfect storm. Just pull him, get him out there.
Yeah.
Practice again.
One game that was a really good one as well was Indy and Green Bay.
Yeah.
I had a blast watching that one. I knew it was going to be a close one. I don't think you guys have given Indy enough credit this year, personally.
No, definitely.
But that's another OT game. Valdez-Scantling fumbles, leads to the Colts W, getting death threats on Twitter after. It's tough for Green Bay. They seem to lose big games this year, beat on the teams they should beat, and then lose the games that they should be in. But yeah, Indy, first in the division, looking good after beating Tennessee and Green Bay the past couple weeks.
Yeah, and I think it just, that game shows Green Bay just doesn't have quite enough of the full puzzle put together. And
Indy has the best defense in the NFL right now, so that helps their team. But me personally, I agree with you, Rawls. I haven't given Indy enough respect, but as a Jonathan Taylor owner in fantasy, the Indy has just left me with a sour taste in my mouth all season. So
Yeah, fair.
It's not so old.
I mean, I'm not saying that they're going to win the Super Bowl or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, no, they're kind of sliding under the radar as a pretty decent football team.
Yep, I agree.
Dallas, Minnesota, just not good. Dallas beats Minnesota 31-28. I caught bits and pieces of this, watched some highlights from it. I don't know. These are two teams that aren't very good, but it kind of surprised me that Dallas won, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree. Minnesota had been playing decent as of late, but I mean, it's a saying I like to say. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while. So
I don't know. I think
there you go, Cowboys fans.
I think Andy Dalton has now had like a few games under his belt as the starter of the Cowboys, and he's getting going. But I don't know. I'm still not over Andy Dalton. I think he is still going to be a good enough replacement for Dak for the rest of this year that they'll still be a half decent team.
Well, I mean, they're only a half game back of first in the division because it's such a garbage division.
Yeah. Well, which is sad, but like they could turn it around and start getting some momentum back in that locker room as long as Ben DiNucci doesn't come back. Even though he has the best name in the world, I'm sorry, Ben DiNucci, if you're listening to this, I
hear he's a big Squib listener.
I don't know, dude. I want you to be the best, but maybe you just put in too early.
The Vikings live and die by Dalvin Cook.
Yeah. Well, he had 113 yards rushing and a touchdown. It's not like he had a bad game.
Yeah. True.
But Dallas established the run a little bit too, which they haven't done in a while. Zeke cleared 100 yards. I can't remember the last time I saw that. Like,
true.
They kind of just Dallas's best game since Dak's gone down.
Yep.
Harry, your boys went toe-to-toe with the Chiefs. Great football game. Couldn't quite pull it out. What did you see from that one?
Well, like you said, unreal game, but I mean, they leave Kels wide open in the end zone at the end of the game there. Like, what do you think? Kelsey. Whatever.
You've had him on your fantasy team for 4 years and have never pronounced his name right.
It's because he and I have talked about it, and he's okay with it.
Yeah, that was a tough touchdown to give up at the end there.
Yeah.
And a tough pick, like, first play going back the other way.
Yeah, it was a tough game, but I mean, like, let's talk about the Raiders. Like, they looked really good all game. Like, that was such a roller coaster game. It was back and forth. Like, I still have faith when these two teams meet again in the playoffs that the Raiders can win.
I'm willing to say that the Raiders have a very good offense and an okay defense.
And they were dealing with some COVID injuries this year. This week. So there were some big names in the secondary that were not there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the Raiders they're making an identity for themselves. But I don't know. I'm worried about some of your guys' first-round picks. Like, who was it? I forget his name. Max something?
Max.
Max Crosby?
I can't remember. Yeah.
He should not be your best player on defense. Like, that's a huge red flag.
Man, he's a beast.
Well, they've been rebuilding the defense ever since that Khalil trade. So, but they kind of focused on offense this year, which I think was a good call because they have to, in their division especially, being in Kansas City's division, you have to be able to compete offensively. And Kansas City proved that, like, even when you don't have the best defense, you can still get there.
And, like, Crosby was nominated for Defensive Rookie of the Year through AP. Like,
he's a good player.
He's good. Like, I watched him in Hard Knocks last year, and I was like, oh, this kid's going to be sick. And he has been.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not saying he's a bad player. I think he's really good and a great surprise for the Raiders, but I think there's going to be some picks that aren't going to pan out there.
I don't know. Farrell, who they chose over Josh Allen in the draft on the defensive line, he's been out with COVID. So if that's who you're referring to, I don't think that's a fair assumption just quite yet in this season.
I don't think he's been out all year. I think
he has
a bit of a non-factor.
he's been injured, but he's never been. He wasn't drafted to be the it factor. I think that Mike Mayock and John Gruden knew what they were doing in the draft and are still rebuilding that defense, like I said. But you know what he is? He's a solid guy that's going to play every snap when he's healthy. And he clearly, from what Mayock said, he was a leader in the locker room and a guy with a head on his shoulders. So if you're rebuilding a defense, that's the kind of guy, to me, it sounds like you want in the locker room as a team leader.
What have you thought about Jonathan Abram as your first-round pick safety, Harry?
Well, that was a few years ago. He's getting better. I mean, he also missed his
Just last year.
Yeah,
Just last year he was picked.
Oh, was it last year?
He missed his rookie year.
I'm thinking of somebody else. But he missed the whole year. He's coming on, and he's looking awesome. He's right in the middle of the pack, I'm pretty sure, at his position.
Yeah, I think he's pretty good. He's playing.
He looked sick.
He's playing well.
He was another one on those Hard Knocks. I'm like, oh, this kid's going to be a monster, and then he got hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're young. The young defense, that's why I'm just saying they're just okay right now. I'm not saying that they're not going to be good.
I have faith. The way that the Raiders have been building and the momentum that's been coming since the initial shock of that Khalil trade, I think it's an exciting time to be a Raiders fan, honestly.
Yeah, fair enough.
Also, want to just toss in there as well, Tack McKinley, the Raiders just signed and have no intention of playing him all year and just letting him recover from his injury. And I think he's going to be a factor next year. Anyway, we'll hold that thought until next year.
Yeah, good luck. Have fun. Monday Nighter, another good game. Wow, said that a lot so far in this recap. Rams and the Bucks. The Rams outlast Tampa. Tom Brady threw 2 absolute garbage interceptions in that game.
Tom looked pretty washed.
What a game that one was too, though. Like, I was invested fully in that football game.
As I was watching that, I was thinking, like, this is not an NFL game. Like, this is a college game where there is a bunch of kids playing for their entire life. Like, every play was so fast. Like, it just seemed like way more intense than a regular season NFL game as far as what I was seeing.
I believe Kupp and Woods were the first 2 Rams receivers to go over 10 receptions each in a single game. And you got to think, like, the Rams had, like, Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt and, like, you know, guys like that. Like, Jared Goff had a great game, 376 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, the 2 picks, like, not great there, but he was slinging the ball around, like West Coast offense style, just throwing that bad boy around.
Yeah, I mean, if you have Goff throwing that much, there will be picks.
Yeah, but I mean, there'll be points too. Like, he makes plays, he just also screws up a lot.
Yeah.
Tom Brady, 26 of 48.
I'm sorry. I think he looked washed he didn't
on Monday. Look good.
He did not look good at all. I still think he's the GOAT, but, like, come on. It's almost like maybe you should have retired on top, Tom.
At the same time, though, like, I guess they rushed the ball 17 times.
He was really bad against.
Well, they didn't. Yeah, they probably had 15 of those rushes in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
AB, 8 receptions on 13 targets. Quite a few of those targets, Tom wasn't even close to hitting him.
Tom can't make those throws, man. He can't make those throws. It's not looking like it anyway. I don't know.
Well, I mean, yeah, he's old as hell. You can't be having Tom throw the ball 50 times a game. Like, I feel like they have to establish more of a run.
I agree. That's not who Arians is as a head coach. So
no,
it's kind of like, what did their GM expect?
But yeah, that was a good football game. All the primetime games were 6: Seattle, Arizona, KC, Vegas, and the Rams and Bucks.
Yeah.
3 really good primetime games.
That Evans TD was insane, too.
Yeah, oh man, what a monster. Like, that's just after Ramsey had slammed him and, like, thrown his foot out of his face, too.
Yeah.
He just comes back and just little boys, like, 3 defenders to get a touchdown.
Shout out AB for taking that double coverage. Call God.
Yeah, okay, I give it a rest.
Oh, serious? That's not a touchdown if AB doesn't take that coverage.
He did his job.
Well, they got to double somebody.
He did his job.
You do have to double somebody on that team. Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, like if Tampa Bay obviously they've got like a win now mentality. But man, if they could, honestly, I think this team would be a bit better off with Jameis. I'm just gonna say it.
You think?
I just with the weapons alone, man, and like sure, Jameis threw a billion picks, but like I don't know, like his numbers last year were pretty insane. And then now you give him AB as well and two really good running backs. I don't know. I feel like but I don't know. It's a double. That was also last year, and it's not like I just had Jameis throwing absolute ducks as interceptions, you know. So I guess it's a double-edged sword. But Tom did look very poor in that game.
Yeah,
which was
I would have to
concerning.
agree.
And
that's like he has good games still, but he has a lot of not good games too so far this year. Like where it's like, oh man, who is this guy?
Pressure. It's pressure. He's just not calm. He didn't look calm under pressure.
Yeah.
Anyways,
that's the games from last week. All right. What do we got next, Eli?
The news. Quick update. We don't really need to dive into this. Ravens Pittsburgh moved to Sunday afternoon. I think we already talked about this, but yeah, due to COVID. So that's super lame. Ruined everyone's Thanksgiving. Thank you, Baltimore.
Yeah, a tough break for the Steelers, who lost their bye week basically due to COVID, and now have lost like their 10-day break from the Thursday to Sunday game because of it too.
Yeah. We do have Teddy Two Gloves coming back as well, but on this note, we didn't talk about this at all last week, and I realized it once we got off. PJ Walker, out of the XFL, he has never lost a pro start.
Yeah, he looked really good in the XFL and looked good enough for Carolina.
Yep.
Wins his first NFL start.
Made some really good throws.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like he's a huge bright spot from that XFL.
For sure. He looked really good in the XFL.
Oh, hands down would have been the MVP if that league didn't get shut down.
Yeah. But yeah, so Teddy Two Gloves is coming back, but a good story coming out of
for
PJ
sure.
Walker. Guy's been grinding. All right, now we got Eckler. Eckler's back. All of you fantasy owners that held on to him might be worth it. But yeah, that's more so big fantasy relevance, I think.
Yeah, it's huge fantasy relevance, and it helps Herbert out too.
Yeah.
Eckler's. I mean, we haven't really seen him with Herbert. Maybe one game before he got hurt. I can't remember that far back, but I mean, it can only spell good things for a young quarterback when your star running back comes back.
Yeah, totally.
I said back too many times there.
Yeah. Myles Garrett out with the COVID this week. 2
weeks in a row for Garrett. Maybe he's got it a little harder than it seems like some of these players have.
That Cleveland defense looked good last week without him, so I think it's not a big issue for Cleveland at this point. I mean, it's always a big issue when Garrett's not there, but we talked about
how Baltimore is not in a playoff spot. They're actually in third in their division right now. Cleveland has a better record than them. I just wanted to throw that
insane.
In there. Like
insane.
Come on. 7-3 Cleveland Browns, 6-4 Baltimore. Like, oof.
Yeah.
That's this wasn't the year that I thought I was going to see the Cleveland Browns in a playoff spot and Baltimore not. That's for sure.
So,
yeah, totally.
2020.
Yeah, no kidding.
Never ceases to amaze us.
Trubisky expected to start for the Bears. I mean,
that's probably has to do more with Foles not being fully healthy, and they want to give him some time.
Yeah.
I mean, Foles has been bad.
Yeah.
There's no...
I mean, they've struggled with quarterbacks in general.
Yeah.
So something tells me it is something needs to change, and I think it'll be a coaching change.
Yeah. Nagy's usually a good OC, I thought, but
yeah,
not with the Bears.
Yeah. And rookie sensation, Joe Burrow.
Oh.
His knee is gone.
It's mush.
I think ACL, MCL.
Structural damage.
Yeah. He banged it up pretty good.
Yeah, it's super sad. Like, Joe Burrow's such a beauty. I think Herbert was kind of running away with the Rookie of the Year, in my opinion, but definitely a finalist for Rookie of the Year if he would have stayed healthy.
Yeah.
I just hope that he can come back fully ready to go next season, because I think that kid is elite and going to be a future huge star of the NFL.
For sure. Yeah, I agree.
Completely agree. Maybe this is a blessing, though. It's never a blessing when, I'm not trying to say Joe getting hurt, because that's awful, especially with his knee. Like, that was a gross injury. And he might not even be ready for the beginning of next season, depending on the extent and how his rehab goes.
Yeah.
But now that they're not going to win many more games, maybe they can get this guy some help on the O-line in this year's draft with their high pick, because they're already not good.
Agreed.
Yeah. And Rex Burkhead done for the season with was it ACL?
I think so, yeah. Some sort of knee injury. He got carted off last week and then made a tweet that he was done, basically, for the season. So maybe that gives a little bit more clarity in the Patriots' backfield. I mean, Harris has been taking a decent amount of the snaps, run game-wise.
Sony's been out all year, and I think he's back now. So we'll have no clarity. Yeah, we'll have no idea what New England's doing at running back, but it's down to 2. Yeah. But who knows? They might find someone.
James White has been getting a few passes.
They'll probably find another person to continue to run the ball and vulture fantasy relevance from that backfield.
Yep. That good for news and injuries, boys?
It is.
All right.
On to the picks.
Well, we got to preview week 12 first.
Oh, yeah, I guess I'm scrolling ahead.
Yeah, jeez. We got Thanksgiving football. We mentioned it a few times on this episode. Just 2 games instead of 3 now. Houston versus Detroit, early game. And then it's Washington and Dallas in the old Thanksgiving Classic.
I really hope Creed plays at halftime to save America.
I literally watch that video like once a month for sure. And it was 2 months after 9/11 or whatever it was too. Yeah. One of the greatest halftime performances of all time.
And it wasn't even the Super Bowl, which is crazy.
Literally just Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Houston, Detroit, and Washington, Dallas could both be close games. I'm not sure of the excitability, I guess, in either of them, but could be close football games.
Yeah.
Harry.
Yeah. Oh, you boys are facing off. I'll let you guys both handle this, and then I'll chime in when it's
Raiders and Falcons. Falcons had a tough go last week. Their O-line couldn't stop the pressure of New Orleans. I believe Matt Ryan was sacked 9 times. Julio was out for 3/4 of the game. They got spanked. But I think this game against Vegas could be a shootout. I see the Raiders winning, but I think it could be a 38-31 kind of thing. But it could be a nice high-scoring football game between our 2 teams, Garrison. What are you thinking?
Maybe in a perfect world, but I think with the Raiders defense coming back off that COVID list,
they had 9 of their guys come off the COVID list and play last week. It's not like the whole defense.
No, but there were some pretty key guys like Farrell, just to name a few. But
your corner, who I don't know, but I know was out.
There was a few guys like a safety, other corner.
I don't think it'll be a shootout. This is when I'm chiming in.
I agree. That's what I'm trying to get to here. I just don't think, from what I've seen of Atlanta this year, I just don't think Atlanta's a good team at all, and I see the Raiders by at least 14. And
up until last week, they were top 5 offense.
Yeah. I still just don't see it. I'm just not sold.
Well, it also depends if Julio's out or not. That offense cannot move the football if Julio's not on the field.
Yeah, it's very true. We'll see. Still taking the Raiders.
Yeah, me too. Tennessee and Indy, they're back at it. Indy won the first matchup. This is when I first started trying to hop on the Colts bandwagon and convince you guys that they were a good team. Took a couple weeks, but these two square off again. Tennessee coming off a huge win against Baltimore. Green Bay, Indy coming off a huge win against Green Bay. Both of them overtime games. This is a huge divisional game. I believe Indy's 1 game up on Tennessee in the standings in their division.
Yeah, this is kind of dumb how they play each other twice in a row. How often does that happen?
Yeah, in like 3 weeks or whatever it is, 4 weeks.
But
yeah, what can you do though?
what can
2020.
What can you do? It's gonna be another good game. I guess I'd go probably with Indy, and I think it's gonna be good. Because like you said, Rouse, I just didn't give them enough respect. But
they're tied actually. They're both 7-3, so this is even bigger than I thought it was.
Yeah, it's a huge game.
Yeah.
Baltimore and Pittsburgh. This is not even going to be close. Baltimore's been absolutely decimated by COVID this week. So, I think Pittsburgh is going to move into 11-0.
Well, and I think Pittsburgh's pissed that their bye week is squashed basically too. Like they were kind of using this as a bye. Apparently, they were going to get till Wednesday off after their game tomorrow, and now like obviously they can't. So, I think Pittsburgh. Well, looking at Twitter, like half the team tweeted that they were pissed off. So I could see Pittsburgh just feeding Baltimore this week.
And it's Baltimore, Pittsburgh. I mean, this is a rival game to begin with. And not only are they losing their bye week, they're losing their primetime Thanksgiving game.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Nuts. So, this one will be a bloodbath.
Yeah. And then KCT Bay. Depends which Tom Brady shows up.
Yeah, this solely rides on Tom Brady's shoulders.
Because he's had really good weeks and really bad weeks, and we'll see what this week is. But I don't see KC not winning this game.
Totally.
I don't either.
I don't even know if it'll be close, but it's just two big teams. Mahomes, the future GOAT versus the current GOAT. It's should be a good matchup either way. And I don't know, there wasn't like a whole bunch of great matchups when I was looking through it this week.
Seattle's going to stomp Philly on Monday night.
Like Cleveland, Jacksonville, no. Minnesota, Carolina, no. Arizona, New England, like, you never know with New England. Sometimes they just do it, but like Arizona should definitely win that game.
Yeah.
Buffalo crushed the Chargers. Miami should beat the Jets. I don't know, like, there's not a whole lot of close games otherwise. So that's pretty much it for my Week 12 preview games, boys.
All right. Well, let's get into some picks.
Do we have to?
Yep. Riley,
Okay.
Tell us how much you suck.
I suck a lot. I went 0-4. The first 0 for this year out of any of us. Pretty good in Week 11,
Yeah,
Usually someone goes 0
I definitely always have. I usually have an 0 for earlier in the season.
But I also did all my picks based on your guys' picks because I was in third place to try and counter you. So I had the Atlanta +5 versus New Orleans. That lost. New England -2 versus Houston lost. Arizona +3 versus Seattle lost. And then Miami, giving me another reason to hate them, lost to Denver. They were -3, but lost the game. So I went 0-4. I'm now 15-22-3. That 0-4 is just a dagger this late in the season.
Yeah, I think that that almost has eliminated you from contention.
I need a 4-banger for sure. I need to go 4-0 at some point here in the last few weeks.
And you need us to go like 0-4
Yeah.
or 1-3 at least.
I mean, you're only 4.5 up on me, so if you go 2-2 and I have a 4-banger, it gets me within 2 games. But looking ahead, Harry in second place went 2-2. He had Houston +2 versus New England. They won. Cleveland -3.5 versus Philly won. Miami -3 versus Denver lost, and Green Bay +2 versus Indy lost. Harry's now 18-20-2 on the season. Good enough for second. Harry, how'd you feel about your week last week?
I mean, like you said, tough week with Miami, but
I begged our listeners to take Denver because all 3 of us picked Miami.
That's actually true.
I begged them.
Yeah,
it's true. What can you do? What can you do? You shoot for it, but this is the week.
Yeah,
this is the week.
Harry needs a big week here. Eli 2-2 as well. He's now 20-18-2, so he's 2 games up on Harry, 4.5 up on me.
Last week was a strategic handcuff of picking 2 of Harry's games.
Yeah. Green Bay +2 versus Indy lost. Miami -3 versus Denver lost because we all picked them.
Yeah.
Seattle -3 versus Arizona won. I went exact opposite of you on that on purpose and lost. And then New Orleans -5 versus Atlanta won as well. We didn't really talk about that game a whole lot, but, like, I still hate Taysom Hill.
Yeah, you guys lost to Taysom Hill, and he was getting chirped by Roddy White. Tough look for you guys.
Yeah. So, Eli in first, Harry in second, I'm in third. So I will go first on this week's picks, where I plan on trying to climb back into this one, boys. I'm taking the Raiders -3 versus my Falcons. I'm hedging my happiness, because if the Falcons win, that's sweet, but if they don't, I'm probably going to win a pick. The Giants -6 versus Cincy. Cincy doesn't have a quarterback. The Giants have looked not terrible the past few weeks, so going to roll with them. Arizona -2 versus New England. I hope Kyler can stay consistent and get that offense rolling good enough to beat the Patriots by at least a field goal, sorry. And then I got KC -3.5 versus Tampa, as I think, like you guys mentioned a few times in this show, Tom, showing the age, Patty Mahomes should definitely win that head-to-head battle. So just to review, Vegas -3 versus the Falcons, Giants -6 versus Cincy, Arizona -2 versus New England, and KC -3.5 versus Tampa Bay. Harry, what do you got this week?
All right, this is the week. Like I said, this is the week. First, I've got Vegas -3 over Atlanta. Atlanta is a sad team. No further question. No further questions. Number 2, Houston -3 versus Detroit. I think it's going to be a battle game because both these teams are kind of questionable, but Matt Stafford's a really good quarterback, and you never know. Even though Galladay's hurt, I heard Swift's coming back. Could be a good game. Still, like Deshaun in that game, I'm taking Houston -3. Third, I've got Arizona -2 versus New England. Like Riley said, Kyler's going to come in and show New England what he's made of. Bill is notorious for shutting down the best player on the field, which is going to be Kyler. So I think Kyler overcomes that in this game. They only have to win by a field goal. Arizona -3. And then fourth, I've got Buffalo -5.5 versus the Chargers. Buffalo's a good team. They're coming off a bye. They've been practicing for this game for at least 10 days now. So I got them -5.5. So one more time, that is Raiders -3 versus Atlanta, Houston -3 versus Detroit, Arizona -2 versus New England, and Buffalo -5.5 versus the Chargers.
Beauty. Eli.
All right.
2-game lead over Harry. What's going to keep you there this week?
I'm going to roll with the Saints -6 over Denver. I mean, I don't know. I think the Saints defense is really good, and Taysom will just do enough to win along with Kamara. So we're going to take New Orleans -6 versus Denver. Seattle's going to absolutely destroy Philly. It's not going to be close, so I'll take Seattle -6. I think they're even at home, so that's even worse news for Philly. One danger game. I'm going Detroit +3 versus Houston.
Head-to-head for you guys.
A little head-to-head game with me and Harry. Keep it spicy. And since it is Thanksgiving, I am going to also take the Washington football team. Caught myself there. +3 versus the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are just going to blow it in primetime.
I hope so. That'll be fun.
Middle of the afternoon, but the entire United States is off. So, to recap, New Orleans -6 versus Denver, Seattle -6 versus Philly, Detroit +3 versus Houston, and Houston +3 versus Dallas.
Beauty.
Cool.
That is our picks for the week. I'll give us a quick Survivor and Fantasy rundown before we head out here. We lost 4 people this week, boys, in the Survivor pool.
That's
big. Down to 11 out of the 85 that we started with. All 4 that lost this week took Minnesota over Dallas last week. All 4 of them losing at the hands of the Vikings. So tough for them. Down to our final 11. We'll see if we lose any more this week. In fantasy, we're back in the yeah. We're back in the win column, boys, in fantasy football. Kids pulled it off for me last week. We're now 6-5, And we're in 7th place right now. Top 8 make playoffs out of the 16 teams. So it's a logjam down there, though. There's like 6 teams behind us from 8th to 12th or 13th that are all 5 and 6. So I need to pull out another one for us here this week, boys.
For sure. Good win, though, Rawls.
Thank you.
All right. And that is it. That's all we got for you. So, as always, thank you for listening. Catch us on the social medias at Squib Kick Radio. And have a great Thanksgiving for those of you in the US of A. And we'll talk to you next week.
Peace.
Let's go.
I got you stuck off the realness. Think not this shit's too hot. Too hot. Too hot. Rock you in your face. Dab your brain with your nose bone. I'm a vampire walking on the surface of the sun.